If you want to hire a video editor for your YouTube videos, there's a right way to do it, and then there's a more expensive wrong way to go about doing that. And that starts with before you actually hire who it is that you want to bring onto your team. So in today's video, we're going to be diving into the 7 mistakes creators make before they hire a video editor. And if you're making these mistakes, it's already costing you money out of your pocket. Let's jump right in. Tip number 1, not having any system or process for creating videos. When you're doing everything yourself, you're not really concerned with having a process or a system or an approach of how you're going about doing your video content, because it takes you however long it kind of takes you to do it and get it to where you're satisfied with the videos. Or maybe when you just get to a point where you say, like, this is enough, I'm publishing it, I can't do anything else with this video. So there's that whole dynamic when you're getting started. However, when you're hiring someone as a video editor on your team, whether they are working full-time or part-time, or maybe it's less than part-time, so it's only like flex hours of so many, maybe like 10 or 15 every week, that editor needs to have a system in place on how to work with your stuff when it comes to prepping your videos, adding in all the assets and the B-roll, music, graphics, any storytelling components that maybe you want added in your videos, and being able to have some time estimates for how long it's going to actually take for them to complete your content. When you're unorganized and you don't have stuff set aside for them to go about your videos, they don't know how to quote unquote edit your videos for you, and you're just giving them raw files like, put it together and edit this for me. And they don't know what that means because they don't know how you define what an edit is and what it's going to take to get that to completion. So if you don't have a system and a structure, already you're starting off not in a great spot if you want to hire someone. Tip number 2 is not having all your assets for your brand organized. Already, again, you're starting off not necessarily in the best spot when you don't have the assets for your brand in a place, or like in a folder like Dropbox or Google Drive, for them to be able to go to and access your stuff. When it comes to your brand colors, what are those? What's the actual hex number so they can put that into Final Cut Pro or Adobe, or do they have to go and guess or find some online tool to kind of pick from stuff you've been using and figure it out themselves? Those are kind of like unexpected, unnecessary things to ask someone to do because you're paying them to go figure out what you've already figured out. So ask yourself, like, what are some of the things that I'm using in my business? Do you have a brand style guide? Is a great way to kickstart this. If you're using something like Canva, then Canva will have like a brand asset folder, if you will, where you have your fonts that maybe you use all the time, whether you've uploaded them or what have you, and you have those numbers. So even taking that, putting that into like a PDF document or something so they know exactly what you're using for headers, what should subheader font text be, what's the right font size, what are some of the different colors that should be used, a bunch of other stuff that comes to your brand. What's the aesthetic and the vibe for your brand? Most of the time, they cannot duplicate what you want them to because you haven't fully and properly equipped them. So before you hire somebody, make sure all the assets are in a folder so when they're getting started, they know exactly what fonts you use, what colors you use, and where they should go and get that stuff, or where they can download it if you already have it in an asset folder. Tip number 3, no brand assets whatsoever established. This is a problem because you basically are like starting from zero, which I get if you're starting completely from scratch, but there are like some baseline fonts that you can use that maybe you like. I like to use one that's like Montserrat, I think it's spelled or pronounced, and sometimes I use like different script ones. But if you have nothing to start with, you're expecting them to put something together for you and essentially make magic happen, and you may not like it. Well, go ahead and start collecting the things that they actually would need in order for this to work. If you don't know what the right things are for you, or the right colors, or the right vibe, one of the best investments that I made early on was hiring someone to produce a brand style guide for me, because I'm not great with the color scheme. I just know kind of what I see in my mind. That doesn't mean that I have the skills or I understand exactly how to pull that all together. And so I hired someone that understood that. And she asked a lot of great questions like, what's the vibe for your brand? What do you see? What's the energy? What are you communicating? What's the goal with your company and the vision for what you're doing? That's how we came up with the fast forward logo in the kind of like the TV box and the special colors that we use, because that's the brand and the aesthetic vibe. I wanted it to be laid back, chill, down to earth kind of an aspect. And the fast forward symbol, like you would see like on VCRs and stuff, is because I want to help people move their vision forward using video. So those were some of the things that came out in hiring somebody to do that. It was not like super expensive, and I was able to get a document that I can share with my team. So a mistake that you can be making is just not having any concept of what should go into your videos and expecting the editor to do that. Now, I know a lot of you all stress out about getting started on YouTube, even down to this editor business. If you're trying to hire somebody and build it in, this is exactly why we created the Building a Team course. Stressing out about wanting to create more content, but you're constantly strapped for the time you already have now between editing your content, planning it, creating thumbnails, you name it, you're doing it. Thinking you can keep wearing all the hats as a content creator is a great way to stunt your growth and keep you from achieving more of your goals as a content creator. That's why we created the Building a Team course. It's the exact game plan to take you from being a solo creator to a content creator with a team, so you can start achieving more goals with growing your business and your brand, and of course, creating more content without having to spend countless hours every month trying to do hashtag all the things as a creator. In the Building a Team course, we'll share everything you need to take you through the 3 phases of hiring a video editor or a virtual assistant, or both if you want to, with included swipe files and guides that you can add your branding and have an effective system for building a team from scratch. Go to buildingateam.live to get started. Tip number 4, waiting to hire a video editor too late. If you're already busy right now and you're looking at how much time did it takes you to already edit a video, because I asked you all, how long does it usually take you to edit a video? Most people are somewhere between 3 to 4 hours to get them a finished video product, or they're in the weeds and they're over 5 hours. If you're in one of those two camps, this is already an expense that it's costing you. If you're waiting to hire somebody, you're only going to get busier. There's not going to be a best time to hire somebody, if that makes sense. So I recommend starting before you're ready and before you get even busier, because chances are you're going to need that extra time that you have right now that you think that you don't have. Imagine if those 12 to 16 hours, what if you took that time and you gave it to someone else so they can edit for you? If that's the case, you now have earned back that time. What does that make possible for you? So you also have to think you're not completely getting rid of all that time, because a small portion of that is reinvested back into working with your editor so that you can review the content, submit any revisions or anything like that. Maybe you're uploading, doing maybe any SEO or research, whatever it is else that you're doing, you still have all that other stuff to do. And when most people hire a video editor, they ramp up their production. You didn't account for that time already. So there's other stuff that comes into play. So before you hire somebody, make sure you have that time, which I encourage you to start hiring before you fully need somebody. And that pain point is so severe, you can't even think of making time, because there literally is none. The 5th mistake, thinking you should wait until you're more successful before you hire. If you think that when you're first getting started, there's no real value in hiring somebody, I don't fully believe that. When you think about this whole process of building a team, hiring a video editor from scratch, if you think that because your channel is new, there's really not that much logic in it if you fully believe in why you're creating the channel. Most of us aren't creating the channel because it's a hobby all the time. Most of the people on this channel that's watching this video, you're trying to associate your YouTube video content with a business or a brand. So thinking that you need to have a certain subscriber numbers to quantify it making sense, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. The best thing I ever did was hire my first assistant, my first virtual assistant, when I worked full-time at the bank. When I would get up, it made things that much easier because work was getting done overnight. And so I'm able to constantly have content being created, even on those days and those times when dealing with stage 4 endometriosis, I physically can't. There's still things that are happening and being productive in the business. So if you plan on doing this for any length of time, you plan on being consistent with your content and the vision, you have a big why for what you're doing. If you fully believe in what you're doing, I wholeheartedly agree with investing in yourself and your brand. And that starts with earning yourself back your time, because especially if you're going through courses and other stuff around growing a channel and all of that, it becomes extremely vital to make sure you can actually put that stuff to work. And trying to figure out editing, and that's not your jam, is becoming a waste of time. The 6th mistake that creators make is only looking to hire the cheapest video editor. For sure, the price of what it will cost to hire somebody comes into play. I'm not saying that it's not that big of a deal, because it is important, but there is a cost associated with already right now what it takes for you to edit your own stuff. And you figure, well, it doesn't cost me anything. Yeah, it costs you some time. But if you're only looking to hire the cheapest person, it's already going to cost you again, because you're more than likely, if you're just looking for the absolute cheapest, you're probably going to hire somebody that doesn't have the skills that you need. So it takes them longer. Maybe they're not familiar with your brand or your content or the niche of stuff that you're doing. So they have no idea about marketing. They have no idea about doing any of the stuff that maybe you want them to do. So you're having to excessively train or teach and help refine a lot of sharp and rough edges. So it becomes expensive paying for somebody to figure it out. But there's that other aspect of that dual edge sword of if somebody is not within your price range and you can't afford to pay for them. So it kind of sucks on both ends. So what do? I think the best medium of doing this is hiring somebody to where it's a happy medium. So maybe you aren't bringing someone on part-time or full-time. Maybe it's a flex time. So maybe it's only 1 to 2 videos. And whatever their base set price, maybe you all can come to an agreement on what makes sense for 1 to 2 videos per month. Well, if you're doing 1 video per week, then you only have to now worry about 2 videos instead of 4. So you're earning back half of your time. So there's a way and a progressive process of taking what you have and investing that into somebody. But that's why I kind of don't recommend the whole Fiverr approach. Not that there's anything wrong with Fiverr, and Fiverr Pro is actually a great little resource that you can go and access. But what I've found to be true is that they're not as committed on that platform for your stuff specifically. They have a list of clients of people that they're working with that they're trying to get through the queue, and they're not going to spend as much time. Like, they don't know as much about your brand. They're just editing stuff. So if you are working with somebody that's a great editor and they have a ton of skills, and maybe they're only used to working with Mr. Beast style type videos, they don't know anything about how to produce a piece for marketing. They don't know those concepts, or they don't understand that audience and their likes and dislikes and how the decisions you make in editing impact that audience retention. But hiring the cheapest person just because, it's not a good go-to. The 7th mistake that creators make hiring a video editor is not knowing what you actually need your video editor to do for you. And here's what I mean by that. Essentially, like, you would think like, oh, edit the videos. It's not that simple. What you want to do is scope out the role. What do you actually need for somebody to do in order to produce your videos? If they don't know how to color grade, and that's essential to what you're doing, and there's a certain way that you approach what you're doing, maybe in like your environment or whatever, and they can't do that, then that's something that either you have to prepare to teach somebody on how to do, which can be like a little bit rough, depending on that person's skill set, but you can hire somebody that can do that. But you won't if you don't know to put that down on your list. What's the things that they need to know how to do? What's the scope of work? What's your expectation with their storytelling ability? Do they need to already have knowledge of your niche or your industry? Do they already need to know how to edit video ads? Are you expecting this person to know how to edit vlog content? Maybe it's some other kind of specialized content. If you don't know what the expectations that you have for a video editor, you'll hire somebody that probably can edit videos or they can do a good job, but that doesn't mean that they can do what you need them to do if you haven't fully outlined it. So look at all the things that you do and that you add into your video content. Again, if you're not looking at the fine print, somebody will send you back a video and you'll say, I've never made a video to look like this. Why would you think that this is okay? Because you haven't identified what is okay. So before you hire somebody, you got to make sure that, like, these are the elements that make a video pop for me. These are the things that must be in a regular video, and this is our standard. If you don't have one, you can't expect them to edit right for you. So because price is always going to be a factor in making sure that you actually can afford somebody to be in your budget, I'm going to cover in the next video 5 editing mistakes new creators make in their videos. And if you're hiring someone as a video editor, especially maybe if they're not as skilled, these are mistakes that you want to make sure that you tell them to take out. And we're getting started right now on the next video on your screen. Go ahead and click, and I'll see you over there.